Welcome. You're about to hear something most people do not survive long enough to tell. This video is about the Forsworn, the real Forsworn, not the savage monsters in your quest logs, but the people behind the bone armor and blood feuds. This is the story of growing up Reachborn under Nord occupation, surviving the Markarth Incident, and becoming exactly what they always said we were. You will learn what it costs to fight for your homeland when the entire world calls you terrorist. You will see the Briarheart ritual. You will understand why we worship the old gods, while Nords call us primitive. You will walk through childhood trauma, political betrayal, desperate alliances with Hagravens, and the moment when resistance becomes all you have left. This is a confession from someone who lived it. This is what they do not teach in the College of Winterhold. This is the brutal truth about being Forsworn in Skyrim. And if you genuinely enjoy this kind of dark storytelling, consider subscribing and liking the channel, but only if it truly resonates with you. They tell you the Forsworn are savages, madmen who worship bird witches and carve bone into weapons like children playing at war. They tell you we steal infants from cribs and boil them in our camps. They tell you we are animals. I'm going to tell you what they will never say. I'm going to tell you what it means to be hunted in your own homeland. My name does not matter anymore. Names are for people who have futures, and I stopped having one of those the day I watched my father bleed out in the Markarth marketplace. I was 7 years old. He had gone to sell furs, good quality pelts from foxes he had trapped in the hills. A Nord guard accused him of stealing them. My father tried to explain in broken Tamrielic that they were his, that he had trapped them, legally in the wild places far from any Nord settlement. The guard did not care. He wanted my father to grovel, to apologize for existing. My father was a proud man. He spoke in our tongue, the old language of the Reach, and told the guard what he thought of him. I did not understand all the words then, but I understood the tone. I understood the way my father stood straight even as the guard's hand moved to his sword. I understood that my father would rather die than bend his knee one more time. The sword went through his stomach. He fell forward onto the cobblestones, and I remember how the blood looked against the grey rock, bright red and spreading like a flower opening. The guard wiped his blade on my father's cloak and walked away. No one helped us. No one even looked. A Reachman dying in Markarth was as unremarkable as rain. I held my father's hand while he died. It took a long time. He whispered to me in our language, words I carry like stones in my chest. He told me to remember who we are. He told me the land remembers even when people forget. He told me the spirits are watching. Then he stopped talking. His hand went cold in mine, and I learned the first truth of being Reachborn under Nord rule. Your life is worth nothing. Your death is worth less. My mother came and found me there. She did not cry. Reachfolk do not cry where Nords can see. She pulled me away from the body, and we walked home through streets that pretended we did not exist. That night, she burned offerings to the old gods and sang the death songs in a voice so quiet the neighbors would not hear and report us for heretical worship. Even grief had to be hidden. We lived in the Warrens, the rotting belly of Markarth where they shoved everyone who was not Nord enough to matter. Stone walls weeping with damp, air that tasted like metal and despair. Families crammed into spaces, meant for storage. You could hear everything, every argument, every cough, every muffled sob when someone else did not come home. The Nords lived above us, literally and in every other way that counted. Their children went to proper schools. Ours learned to read from whatever scraps we could find, lessons taught in whispers after dark. Their children played in the streets. Ours learned to make themselves small, to avoid eye contact, to run when the guards came looking for someone to blame for whatever crime needed solving that week. I learned our history the way you learn to breathe. Through my mother's stories, through the old songs that only the elders remembered, through the marks carved into hidden stones that told of who we were before the Nords came and rewrote everything. We were here first. That is what they never teach in their schools. The The Reach belonged to us before the first Nord ever set foot in these mountains. We built our lives in these valleys when their ancestors were still freezing in Atmora. We worshipped our gods, the old spirits of earth and hunt and shadow, for generations uncounted. We had kings, we had culture, we had our own way of being in the world. Then Tiber Septim came with his armies and his lies about unity. Then the Empire came with its laws that did not include us. Then the Nords came and took our land and called it progress. They built Markarth on top of Dwemer ruins and called it their city. They mined our silver and called it their wealth. They made our people into servants and criminals and told themselves it was civilization. My mother worked in a Nord household, cleaning their floors, raising their children while I raised myself. She came home exhausted every night, smelling like their soap and their food, her hands raw from scrubbing. She was paid a fraction of what a Nord servant would earn. When I asked why she did not demand more, she looked at me with eyes that had given up on demanding anything. I went to work at 12. There were no choices. You worked or you starved, and even working sometimes meant starving. I hauled ore in the mines, the same silver that made the Silverblood family wealthy enough to own half the city. The tunnels were dark and tight, and the air was thick enough to choke on. Men died down there regularly. Cave-ins, bad air, exhaustion, despair. The Nords who owned the mine did not care. Reachmen were cheap to replace. There were other children down there with me. We became hard fast. You had to. The darkness does not care if you are young. The mountain does not soften for children. We learned to move in the black, to feel our way through tunnels by touch, to know when the rock was about to shift by sounds most people would never hear. We learned to make our own light with stolen candles and hope. At night, when we could, we met in the hidden places, old caves beyond the city, ruins the Nords had forgotten about or never found, places where we could speak our language without fear, where the elders taught us the old ways, where we learned the truth about our history that no Nord would ever tell. They taught us about Red Eagle, about Faulen, about how he refused to surrender to the Empire even when all the other kings bent their knees, about how he made a pact with the Hagravens, trading his heart for the power to fight, about how he became something more than man, something the Nords could not break, about how he fought for 2 years before they finally brought him down. They taught us that Red Eagle is not dead, that he sleeps in the mountains, waiting, that when the Reach needs him most, he will rise again. Whether that is true does not matter as much as what it meant to believe it. It meant we were not alone. It meant our struggle had history. It meant resistance was in our blood. I was 15 when the Great War started. You probably know this, apart from the history books, assuming you ever read one that was not written by the Empire. The Aldmeri Dominion attacked. The Empire bled. The legions were pulled from every corner of Tamriel to defend the Heartland, including from the Reach. Suddenly, Markarth had no imperial garrison. Suddenly, the Nords who had kept us down with swords and laws and casual violence were vulnerable. Suddenly, we had a chance. It started small. Refusals to pay unjust taxes. Refusals to work for nothing. Meetings that were not so secret anymore. Weapons that appeared from hiding places. Old swords and axes our grandparents had buried rather than surrender. The anger that had been simmering for generations finally had an outlet. Madanak led us. The king in rags, some called him, because he dressed like a beggar but spoke like nobility. He was brilliant. He understood that we were not just fighting for a city, we were fighting for the right to exist. He understood that if we did not take this moment, we might never get another. We took Markarth in 4E 174. We took it back. I was 16, too young to be on the front lines, but old enough to carry supplies, to run messages, to guard the positions we captured. I remember the moment we breached the main gates. I remember the roar that went up from our people, a sound that was rage and joy and grief all mixed together. I remember seeing Nords running, actually running from us for once. I remember thinking, this is what power feels like. For 2 years, we ruled the Reach. 2 years, 730 days. It should have been longer. It should have been forever. We were fair. That is what history will not tell you. But I was there, and I know the truth. Madanak did not order massacres. He did not drive the Nords from their homes at sword point. He let them stay if they accepted our rule. Some did. Some even helped us. Most of the ones who died were the ones who had been cruelest to us. The landowners who had treated us like slaves. The guards who had killed my father and 100 others like him. That is not genocide. That is justice. We started rebuilding what the Nords had tried to erase. Schools where our children could learn in our language. Shrines where we could worship our gods openly. Markets where we could trade without being cheated. We sent envoys to the Empire, asking for recognition as a legitimate kingdom. We were so close. So impossibly close to being free. Then, Ulfric's Stormcloak happened. The war ended. The White Gold Concordat was signed. The Empire had time to care about the Reach again. But they did not have the soldiers. So Jarl Hrolfdir, the Nord who wanted his city back, made a deal with the devil. He hired Ulfric and his militia, promised them they could worship Talos freely if they destroyed us. Ulfric came like a storm. His men were veterans hardened by real war, and we were farmers and miners and shopkeepers playing at soldiers. He used the voice, the old magic of the Nords, to shout our defenders from the walls. He broke our gates in hours. Then he and his men entered the city we had built. What happened next, they call the Markarth Incident. That name is too small for what it was. They did not just take the city back. They punished us for daring to take it in the first place. Every official who had worked for our kingdom was executed, even the ones who surrendered. Women were tortured for information about fighters who had fled. Anyone who lived in the city, Reachman or Nord, was killed if they had not fought on Ulfric's side when he breached the gates. "You are with us, or you are against Skyrim," he said. There was no middle ground. There was no mercy. I was 18. I was in the city when he came. I watched friends die. I watched elders who had taught me our history get dragged into the streets and cut down like animals. I watched a woman I had loved get thrown from the bridge into the river far below because she would not give up her brother's hiding place. I heard her scream all the way down. It stopped before she hit the water. I survived because I ran. I am not proud of that, but I am not ashamed either. Running meant I could fight another day. Running meant I could become what I am now. Hundreds of us fled into the hills, into the wild places our people had always known, into the ruins and caves and forgotten corners of the Reach. We left behind our families who could not run, our homes, our dream of a kingdom. We left behind being human. In the way the Nords understand it, we became the Forsworn, criminals in our own land, hunted like animals for fighting for our homeland. And we swore that we would cut a bloody hole into the Reach until we were free or dead, and we did not particularly care which came first. The camps you have heard about, the ones travelers fear, those are our homes now. We built them in the remains of Nordic ruins, in caves hidden behind waterfalls, in places the Nords cannot easily reach. We fortified what we could. We learned to live on almost nothing. We learned to take what we need from the people who stole everything from us. I will not lie to you. We kill. We raid. We attack caravans and settlements and patrols. The Nords call us terrorists, and maybe that is what we are. But terror is a weapon of the weak, and we are very weak compared to the Empire and its legions. Terror is what you use when you have nothing else, when your back is to the mountain and the only choice is die quietly or die fighting. We do not take from other Reachmen. We do not harm our own. But Nords, Imperials, anyone who supports the occupation, they are fair game. We leave no survivors often, not because we are cruel, though I suppose we are, but because survivors bring soldiers. Survivors bring vengeance. Better to be thorough. You want to know what choice you would make in a situation like this? Tell. Me in the comments. I will be reading them. Tell me if you would have run or stayed. Tell me if you would kill for your homeland or accept the chains quietly. Tell me what you think you would become if everything you loved was taken and you were given a weapon and a reason to use it. But I warn you, you do not know until you live it. You do not know until you hold your father's hand while he bleeds out for the crime of existing. You do not know until you lose your home and your name and your future in a single terrible day. We are forsworn, and we are not finished. The first winter in the camps taught me that survival is not about strength. It is about spite, about waking up every morning in a tent made of stolen canvas and choosing to keep breathing just to prove the Nords have not won yet. We settled in what the Nords call Red Eagle Redoubt, though we knew it by its older name, one I will not write here because some things should stay ours. It was a ruin built into the mountainside, ancient Nordic construction on top of even older foundations. The irony was not lost on us, hiding in the bones of the people who conquered us while planning to kill their descendants. There were maybe 40 of us in the beginning. That number changed constantly. Some died, some left, unable to handle what we had become. Some joined us, refugees from other failed uprisings, people who had nowhere else to go. We were less a clan and more a collection of the desperate and the vengeful, held together by shared trauma and Madonak's vision of what we could be. Madonak was not with us. The Silverbloods, that family of parasites who owned half of Markarth, they had made a deal with him. They captured him during the massacre but did not kill him. Instead, they locked him in Sidna Mine, the same prison where they sent the worst criminals. They kept him alive because a dead martyr is more dangerous than a living prisoner. They thought they could control the Forsworn through him, using him as leverage. They were partly right. We did what Madonak asked when his messages reached us through the network of sympathizers who still lived in the city. But we also did what we needed to survive, and survival meant becoming everything the Nords already believed we were. I learned to kill that first year, not in battle, not in the heat of righteous combat, but coldly, deliberately. I learned which spots on the body bleed fastest. I learned how to move through the forest silent as breath. I learned to ignore the sounds people make when they realize they are about to die. The first one was a Nord hunter. He had wandered too far from the trade routes, tracking an elk into our territory. We could have let him go. We should have let him go. He was just a man trying to feed his family, not a soldier, not a jailer, not one of Ulfric's butchers. But we needed his supplies. We needed his bow, his arrows, his dried meat, his furs. We needed him to not go back and tell people where we were. So I put an arrow through his throat while he was bent over the elk he had killed, and I watched him drown in his own blood, and I took everything he had, including the elk. I threw up after, went behind a rock and emptied my stomach until there was nothing left. One of the others, an older woman named Keris who had lost her entire family in the massacre, she found me there. She did not tell me it would get easier. She did not say it was necessary, or justified, or any of the other lies we tell ourselves. She just said, "The dead do not care if you feel bad about it." Then she walked away. She was right. It did not get easier, but it got more automatic. The next one was easier to justify. A Nord patrol, soldiers actually, men with swords and Empire uniforms who were actively hunting us. We ambushed them in a narrow canyon. 5 of them, 6 of us. It was over in minutes. That time I did not throw up after. That time I searched the bodies for anything useful without thinking about the fact that these had been people with names and families and plans for tomorrow. You stop seeing faces after a while. You see obstacles, threats, resources. You see Nords, and you see the guards who killed your father, and it does not matter if this particular Nord did that particular thing, because they are all part of the system that grinds you into dust and calls it civilization. We learned the land like it was our own body. Every game trail, every hidden spring, every cave and crevice, and place where the stone would echo your approach. The Reach is harsh country, beautiful and deadly. and it became our ally. We knew where to find edible roots when game was scarce. We knew which plants could kill and which could heal. We knew the weather by the smell of the wind and the shape of the clouds. We also learned the old ways, the traditions our grandparents had practiced in secret, the knowledge that had been passed down through whispers and symbols carved where the Nords would not look. We learned to read the signs the spirits left. We learned the proper offerings. We learned that we were not alone in these mountains. The Hagravens found us in the second year. Or maybe we found them. With the old magic, it is hard to tell who is seeking and who is being called. They lived deeper in the mountains, in places even we had avoided. Caves that felt wrong, clearings where the trees grew twisted and the animals would not go. They were women once, our people said. Women who made pacts with the old gods for power. They gave up their humanity bit by bit until they became something else. Something between woman and bird and ancient darkness. They terrified me. They terrify me still. Their voices sound like bones scraping together. Their eyes see through you, into parts of yourself you did not know existed. When they move, it is too fast and too angular, like watching a bird imitate a person rather than the other way around. But they were our elders, our matriarchs, the keepers of the deepest knowledge, and they offered us something we desperately needed: power. The first time I saw the ritual, I thought I was watching someone die. We had carried a fallen warrior to the Hagraven's grove, one of our best fighters, a man named Doven who had taken an arrow through the chest during a raid. He was barely breathing, his life leaking out with every heartbeat. We thought we were bringing him to be blessed in death. We were wrong. 2 Hagravens performed the ceremony. They laid him on a stone altar slick with old blood. They chanted in a language older than words, a sound that made my bones ache and my teeth hurt. They cut open his chest with knives made of flint and reached inside his body while he screamed. I watched them pull out his heart, red and still weakly beating, and place it in a bowl beside him. Then they took out a seed. That is what it looked like anyway, a seed the color of old blood, hard as stone but somehow alive. They placed it where his heart had been. They chanted more. They poured something dark over the wound, and Doven stopped screaming. He stood up, the hole in his chest sealed around the seed, leaving it visible through the torn flesh, beating like a heart made of wood and thorn. His eyes opened, but they were different, flatter, colder. He looked at us like he was trying to remember who we were. The Hagraven spoke. Heart of thorn, bones of the wild, in life forsworn, rise from death, blood of our blood. And Doven, who should have been dead, who was dead in every way that mattered, bowed to them and took up his weapons with hands that no longer shook. He was a Briarheart, one of the warriors blessed by the old magic, given strength beyond any, normal man at the cost of everything that made him Doven. He fought with us for 3 more years. He killed dozens of Nords. He never spoke again, never showed pain or fear or joy, just fought until the day someone ripped the Briarheart from his chest and he collapsed like a puppet with its strings cut. The Hagravens offered this to all of us. Immortality of a sort. Power. The strength to fight forever. All we had to do was give them our hearts. Literally. Give up the last piece of ourselves that was still human and become something the Nords would call monster. Some accepted. Some of our warriors chose to die as men and be reborn as weapons. I understand why. When you have lost everything, when there is nothing left but the fight, why not become the perfect fighter? Why not trade your humanity for the power to hurt the people who hurt you? I did not accept. Not then. Not yet. Maybe I am too much of a coward. Maybe I am too attached to the parts of myself that still remember what it was like to be human. Maybe I just did not want to give the Hagravens that much of me. But I watched others make that choice, and I cannot say they were wrong. The raids became more organized. We were not just a desperate band of survivors anymore. We were becoming an army. Small, yes, scattered across dozens of camps, yes, but coordinated, effective. deadly. We had agents in Markarth, people who looked like loyal citizens, who worked in the markets and the mines and even in Nord households, who passed us information about patrol routes and supply caravans and which officials were planning what. The Nords never suspected. Why would they? They did not think we were smart enough for espionage. They thought we were savages who only knew how to swing axes and howl at the moon. Their assumptions made them sloppy. We learned their patterns. We learned when the guards changed shifts. We learned which routes the silver caravans took from the mines to the city. We learned where their commanders would be and when they would be alone. We struck where it hurt, most. Not random violence, though it probably looked that way from the outside, but calculated attacks designed to make the Nords afraid. To make them understand that the Reach would never be safe for them. To make the cost of occupation higher than they were willing to pay. A silver caravan attacked on the road, the guards killed, the silver taken and buried, where the Nords would never find it. Not for wealth, we had no use for wealth, but to deny them the resources to hunt us. A patrol that went missing in the mountains, their bodies arranged in patterns the old spirits would recognize, warnings written in blood on the stones. An official who disappeared from his own home, whose body was found days later hanging from a tree wrapped in the symbols of the old gods. The Nords called it terrorism. We called it war. The difference is mostly about who is writing the history books. I became good at it. Too good. I learned to compartmentalize, to separate the person who remembered being a child in Markarth from the person who slit throats in the dark. I learned to enjoy the planning, the execution, the moment when the target realized too late what was happening. I learned that vengeance tastes like metal and ashes, and it never satisfies, but you keep chasing it anyway, because what else is there? What do you think really happened here? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I would like to know if I am the only one who feels this way. Tell me if you think we were justified. Tell me if you think we became the monsters they always said we were. Tell me if you think there is a difference. For me, Erful, years blurred together. Raids, fights, losses, small victories that felt meaningless in the larger picture. We killed Nords. They killed us. The cycle continued. Madanak sent messages from his prison cell, words of encouragement and strategy, reminding us what we were fighting for. But it was getting harder to remember. I am 24 now. I have been Forsworn for 6 years. I have killed more people than I can count. I have watched friends die in my arms. I have eaten things you would not feed to dogs. I have slept in the cold and the wet and woken up not sure if I would make it another day. I have become everything my father would have been ashamed of and everything he died believing was necessary. The other camps call me Longclaw because of the way I fight, close and vicious, and I do not let go until the target stops moving. It is not a name I chose, but it is the only name I have now. The person I was before Markarth fell, that child who loved his mother and dreamed of being a hunter like his father, that person is gone, dead as Dovan, dead as my father, dead as the dream of a free Reach. But I keep fighting. We all keep fighting, because what else is there? Surrender means prison or execution. It means bending the knee to the people who destroyed us. It means admitting they were right to treat us like animals. And I would rather die on my feet than live on my knees, which I realize is exactly the kind of thing doomed people say when they know they are doomed but cannot stop. The Hagravens tell us the spirits are pleased with our offerings. The spirits are always pleased when blood is spilled. That is the thing about the old gods. They do not care about justice or righteousness or any of the things the Empire gods pretend to value. They care about strength, about survival, about whether you are willing to do what is necessary, and we are. By all the old gods and the new, we are willing. We have proven that every day for 6 years. We have proven that you can take our land and our homes and our names, but you cannot make us quit. You cannot make us forgive. You cannot make us forget. If this story has kept you listening this far, and you want more of these dark confessions from Skyrim, hit that subscribe button. It tells me someone out there is still paying attention to warnings like these. The Nords think we are mindless. that we just attack anything that moves. They are wrong. We remember every name, every face, every person who participated in the massacre. We keep lists. We share them among the camps, and we are working through them one by one, slowly, carefully, with all the patience of mountains that know they will outlast any human structure. Ulfric Stormcloak is still alive, still free, still calling himself a hero, still pretending the Markarth Incident was necessary, still walking around Windhelm like he did not create us, like he did not personally guarantee that the Reach would burn for generations. One day, we will reach him. Maybe not me, maybe not anyone in this camp, but someone, someday. The Forsworn do not forget. We are patient like poison, and Ulfric Stormcloak owes a debt written in the blood of my people. The thing about living for vengeance is that it hollows you out. You think you are filling yourself with purpose, but really you are just making space for more anger, more hate, more of the emptiness that comes from waking up every day knowing that nothing you do will bring back what you lost. I am 28 now. 4 more years have passed since I last tried to count them. Time moves differently when every day is the same fight. When every sunrise means checking if you are still alive, and every sunset means preparing to do it again tomorrow. Our camp has grown. We are 60 strong now, one of the larger Forsworn groups in the Reach. We control a network of caves and ruins that span 20 miles of mountain territory. The Nords know we are here, but they cannot root us out. They have tried. We have the bodies to prove it. I have seen things that would break most people. I have done things that have broken me in ways I do not think about when I can help it. I have become exactly what the Nords always said we were. The question that keeps me awake is whether we had a choice. The raids continue. They have to. We need supplies. We need weapons. We need to keep the Nords afraid because fear is the only language they understand. But it is getting harder to pretend there is strategy behind it. Harder to claim we are freedom fighters when we are killing travelers who never participated in the massacre, who maybe even sympathize with us, who are just trying to survive the same as anyone. Last month we ambushed a merchant caravan. Imperial, not Nord, but they were trading with Markarth, so they were legitimate targets by our rules. 3 guards, 2 merchants, 1 driver. We killed them all. It was efficient, clean. The kind of operation we have done 100 times. But one of the merchants was a woman about my mother's age. She begged before I killed her. She had children, she said. Grandchildren. She was just trying to make a living. She had never hurt anyone. Please, she said. Please, I killed her anyway. Put an arrow through her eye because it is faster, and she stopped begging. Then I searched her body and found letters from her grandchildren, drawings they had made, a pressed flower one of them had given her. I burned them all. You cannot carry sentiment when you are forsworn. Sentiment gets you killed. I did not sleep for 3 days after that. When I finally did, I dreamed I was the one begging, and someone who looked like my father was putting an arrow through my eye. I woke up screaming. No one came to check on me. We all have nightmares. Acknowledging them feels like weakness. Karis told me once that the trick is to stop thinking of them as people. Just think of them as Nords or Imperials or obstacles. Just think of them as the reason your father is dead and your childhood was stolen and your people are hunted. It works sometimes. Other times you remember that the person you just killed probably had a favorite food and a lucky charm, and someone who loved them, and it does not matter because they are still dead and you still killed them. The Hagravens have been visiting our camp more frequently. They come with offers and prophecies and demands. They want more warriors to undergo the ritual. They want offerings of blood and bone. They want us to remember that we are bound to the old gods whether we like it or not, and the old gods demand their due. I have watched 5 more men become Briarhearts this year. 5 more warriors who decided that being human was less important than being powerful. The ritual does not get less horrifying with repetition. If anything, it gets worse, because you know exactly what is happening. and what will be lost. One of them was my friend. His name was Hagraven. We grew up in the Warrens together, worked the same mine shaft, fled Markarth on the same day. He was the closest thing I had to family after my mother died. Sickness took her 3 years ago, an infection that would have been nothing if she had access to proper medicine, but Reachfolk do not get proper medicine even when there is not a war on. Hagraven decided he wanted the power. He was tired of being weak, he said. Tired of watching people die because we were not strong enough to protect them. Tired of being afraid. The Hagravens could take that fear away. They could make him into something that did not feel pain or doubt or the weight of all the dead behind us. I tried to talk him out of it. I told him it was not worth it, that he would lose himself, that Briarhearts are not really alive, just animated by old magic and hatred. He looked at me with eyes that had already made the decision and said, "What is the difference? We are already dead. We died in Markarth. This is just making the corpse useful." I held his hand while the Hagravens cut out his heart. I watched them place the seed. I heard him scream and then stop screaming when the ritual took hold. I watched him stand up with that thing in his chest where his heart used to be, and I looked into his eyes, and Hagraven was not there anymore. Just something wearing his face. He fights better now, faster, stronger. He does not hesitate. He does not question orders. He is the perfect weapon. And I miss my friend so much it feels like I am the one with a hole in my chest. If you have ever wondered what choice you would make in a situation like this, tell me in the comments. I will be reading them. Would you trade your humanity for power? Would you let yourself become a monster if it meant protecting what little you have left? Would you watch your friend disappear into magic and violence and tell yourself it was worth it? The Civil War has changed things. Ulfric finally did what we always knew he would and started his rebellion against the Empire. The Stormcloaks and the Imperials are tearing Skyrim apart, and we are caught in the middle. Both sides hunt us. Both sides see us as the enemy. Neither offers us anything except death. Some of the camps have started taking sides. Some support the Stormcloaks because at least they are fighting the Empire, the same Empire that abandoned us and then betrayed us. Others support the Imperials because Ulfric is the one who massacred us, and supporting him would be obscene. Most of us support neither. The Civil War is Nord business. We have our own war to fight. But it is hard not to see the opportunity. The Nords are distracted. They are killing each other. Their patrols are thinner. Their supplies are stretched. If we push now, we could take territory. We could make them bleed the way they made us bleed. We could prove that the Reach will never be pacified, never be safe, never be theirs. Madanak sent word from Sidna Mine 6 months ago. He said the time is coming. He said the Silverbloods are weakening. He said if we can create enough chaos, enough fear, enough problems that the Nords cannot ignore, he might be able to break free. And if Madanak breaks free, if the King in Rags returns to lead us, maybe we have a chance. Maybe this is not all for nothing. I want to believe that. I need to believe that. Because if this is all for nothing, if we are just prolonging the inevitable, if we are dying slowly in these mountains for a dream that will never come true, then what was the point? What was any of it for? We have started coordinating with other camps, sharing information, planning larger operations. There are maybe 300 Forsworn scattered across the Reach now, divided into a dozen camps, all loosely following Madanak's vision, even though most of us have never met him. We are not an army. We are not even really an organization, but we are persistent, we are angry, and we remember. The Nords think time is on their side. They think if they hunt us long enough, kill enough of us, make life hard enough, we will eventually give up. They think resistance has a shelf life, and ours is almost expired. They are wrong. Resistance is all we have. Take that away and there is nothing left. We are already at the bottom. We are already the monsters they feared. Going lower is not possible. Giving up is not an option. So we fight until we die, and we train the next generation to fight after. We are gone, and the cycle continues forever. Because that is what happens when you grind a people down and do not quite finish the job. I think about my father sometimes. I wonder what he would think of what I have become. Would he be proud that I fought back? Would he be ashamed that I became a killer? Would he understand that I did not have a choice? Or would he say there is always a choice and I just made the wrong ones? I think he would be sad. Not disappointed. Just sad. Sad that the world broke his son the same way it broke him. Sad that the cycle of violence continued. Sad that I never got to be the person I might have been if the Nords had just let us exist in peace. But we do not get to be those people. We do not get to imagine what might have been. We get to be forsworn, and that means carrying the weight of all the dead and all the anger and all the futile hope that maybe, if we fight hard enough and long enough, the Reach will remember our names. The old gods are pleased with us. The Hagravens say so. They say the spirits see our offerings and smile. They say we are doing sacred work, reclaiming the land from the occupiers, keeping the old ways alive through blood and bone and ritual. They say we are blessed. I do not feel blessed. I feel tired. Tired of fighting. Tired of killing. Tired of watching people die. Tired of pretending I am doing this for anything other than spite and momentum. Tired of being cold and hungry and hunted. Tired of the dreams where I am back in Markarth, watching my father bleed, and I am 7 years old again, and the world has not turned me into this yet. But I get up every morning. I sharpen my weapons. I check the traps. I plan the next raid. I do what needs to be done because someone has to and I am still here, and the alternative is laying down and letting them win. We are Forsworn. We are the people who must pillage our own land, burn our own ground. We are the scourge of the Nords, the axe that falls in the dark, the scream before the gods claim your soul. We are the true sons and daughters of the Reach, and we will have our kingdom again, even if it takes 100 years, even if everyone alive today dies in the trying, even if our kingdom is just ruins and bones and memories. We will have it because the alternative is admitting the Nords were right, admitting we deserved what happened to us, admitting we should have just accepted the chains quietly. I would rather die. I would rather become a Briarheart and lose what is left of my humanity. I would rather fight until my body gives out and the mountains claim me, and I become one more ghost haunting the Reach and warning travelers to turn back. There is no redemption for us. Society will never accept us. We have done too much. Killed too many. Become too much of what they always said we were. Even if the Reach became independent tomorrow, even if the Nords all left and the Empire recognized our sovereignty, we would still be forsworn. Still be the people who lived in the dark and did dark things. Still be marked by what we had to do to survive. But maybe that is enough. Maybe being marked is better than being erased. Maybe history will remember us as monsters, but at least it will remember us. At least the Nords will know they could not break us completely. At least our grandchildren, if any of us live long enough to have grandchildren, will know we fought back. Ulfric Stormcloak is still out there, still calling himself a hero, still pretending the Markarth Incident was necessary, still walking free while the people he massacred rot in the ground or live in caves like animals. He might win his civil war. He might become High King. He might rule Skyrim and be celebrated and die old in his bed surrounded by people who think he was right. That thought keeps me going. The idea that maybe, before the end, I can put an arrow through his throat the way I put an arrow through that merchant woman. The idea that maybe I can make him beg the way my people begged. The idea that maybe, for just one moment, he will understand what he did to us. It will not bring back the dead. It will not undo the Markarth Incident. It will not give us our kingdom, or our homes, or our lives back. But it will be something. A moment of justice in a world that has none for people like us. A debt paid in the only currency we have left. Until then, we fight. We survive. We make the Nords regret every day that they did not finish what they started. We haunt these mountains like the spirits the Hagravens say are watching. We become legend and nightmare and warning. We become everything they feared we could be. We are forsworn, and this is what you made us.